What up, people? Back again with another episode. I'm Oliver Perry. This is Oliver Perry Show. We're about to do a goal breakdown of the 625 door goal that I have. We're not going to do analysis today. We're going to stick strictly to this goal that I've got laid out. And I'll break down my thought process behind it and how I got to this. And I've got a couple quick pieces of equipment here. Got my phone to do some calculations with. And then we're also going to go to my iPad. Now, we're going to break this goal down so you guys can see how I'm going after it. And then hopefully you can use the same process of setting your own goals the same way. And basically, long story short, we're about to do this as the taking small bites of a big goal. So, all right, so let's get to it. All right, so we're looking at 625 doors, right? So you got 625 doors right now. We know we're going to get the 625 doors in a 4-year period, so we're going to divide that by 4. All right, 625 divided by 4. That's going to put us at, I want to turn this down real quick, sorry. There we go. 625 doors at, going to put us at 156.25. Now, here's the tricky part. I actually want to be able to get to $1.5 million a month. This is not going to get me there. Tell you straight up. Right now. Now we'll get to that on a later video because I still got to figure that piece out and how I'm gonna do that so I can break that down to you as well. But this is going to get me to 1.5 a year. So let's get back into the calculations part of it. So we're looking at the 156.25 is the number right now. So this is the number of properties I got to get a year, that is. So within the next 5 years, I've got to get this every one. Once a year, I gotta get 156 doors roundabout, right? So, next thing we're gonna look at is if we take the 625 doors, add a $200 average a door. 625 times 200. That's gonna put us at 125. That's $125,000 a month. Right, with 625 doors. Now we're going to multiply that by 12 months times 12. This is where I get the 1.5 million a year. So basically, to pull this off, I've got to get that 625 doors at $200 a month average to be at 125 a month. And then on top of that, we're going to get to that 1.5 by that being over a monthly year. Now, this is without taxes or anything to that effect. So in all actuality, we're probably going to have to go over 625 doors just to hit that number goal. But the number goal isn't as important as getting that 625 doors because the 625 doors is going to give us the experience and the knowledge that we need to execute. Now, here's where it gets really tricky. So we got to recognize what we're good at and what we're not good at. So let's talk about that real quick. So I have a few strengths, right? I think I got a few strengths. Okay. And then we're going to talk about weaknesses. That's an A. Don't judge me. Doggone it. All right. So weaknesses. We know I'm good on video. At least I like to think so. Right? I'm a good communicator. I can connect with people. What am I bad at? So, this is where it gets personal. Be nice. All right, so I'm not great with math when it comes to the calculations. I can't even spell calculations, it's so bad. The iPad is moving, y'all, so bear with me. It's really uncomfortable to try and type out, write out on here. So let me see if I can do this in a way that's going to be more comfortable to write on, as opposed to the iPad just moving around here on me. Okay, there we go. Calculations. Okay, so this calculation is going to be my weakness. Now, what else is weakness? I don't have the experience. At this moment, right now, I don't have the experience. So now we got to figure out, we got to talk about how am I going to fix those faults? How am I going to fill in those spaces? Now, excuse me. In this, there's a couple things I'm going to do that's going to help me to fix those spaces. Now, here's what I do. Here's what I like to think of. I like to think of ways I can use those strengths to help me fill those weaknesses. Now, first things first, this is the big one. Because regardless of what I do, in real estate, you have to know the numbers. There's certain numbers you have to know. In multifamily, it's the NOI, it's the cap rate, it's things like that, things of that nature. So I know there's certain things I'm going to have to know. So there's some things I'm going to have to do that I wouldn't have thought to do before that I'm going to have to do to be able to help me figure this out and to find someone who's going to be better at the numbers. Now, so how do I do that? So I'm going to use my communication skills and my ability to connect with people to fill in this space right here to help me fix that. At least when on the small parts. So things like the NOI, things like the cap rate, those things are easy for me to figure out. I just have to take the time to sit down and go through it and practice over and over and over again and reach out to people who are better at the math than I am. The great thing for me is that I actually have a couple people that I can call on in this particular arena. Now, experience is the next one. And this is also a big one. That is a terrible arrow. There you go. So this is a big one as well. Why is this big? Well, because the difficulty with what we do is to be effective in real estate. It's easier when you have a lot of experience because people are going to look when sponsors look at a team. They like to see how many people have done this over and over again and what's their success rate. Additionally, they like to see their reputation as well. So that's something we're going to have to kind of work on and figure out as we go along. But with the people that we work with in filling in these gaps where we have hard strengths at, we're going to use those same skills to help provide them value in the spaces where they're weak at, where their stuff will be here where the weaknesses are. Now, here's what's interesting. Video isn't really something that's necessary in doing real estate deals or multifamily deals. There are people who do strictly multifamily marketing, and that allows them to get in on deals and get a percentage and things of that nature. So that might be a route we take, possibly. I don't think so because I don't have the time to do a lot of editing on videos and sitting down creating websites. I don't have that kind of time because of the U.S. military. So I believe we're gonna have to more heavily rely on the communication and the connection with people, because to do that will make it easier for us to do this. Now, video by proxy of what it is allows to practice this communication and connection. So how do we do that with the experience? Well, we're going to be going to, we'll go to different multifamily meetups. We'll go to conferences and we'll reach out. The good thing for me is that I actually have a podcast. So using the podcast to reach out to some of these multifamily investors who have the experience, who've done this several times over and over, is going to allow us a little bit of ease in that goal. Now, let's go back a little bit because all that stuff is broken down. These are things we're going to have to figure out and fill in those spaces. And as I do that, I'll educate you guys as to where I'm finding information on how to understand multifamily analysis, how to connect with brokers and things of that nature. Now, with that in mind, let's talk about that. So there's several people I'm going to need to talk to start this connection, to focus on this connection piece that we talked about before, the connection communication, to help me fill the other gaps in. And I'm going to break those down right now. So you've got the broker. We're going to need a broker to work with. We're going to need someone who's good with the numbers person, and the analyst. We're going to need to talk to somebody who's done property management. Property manager. And we're going to talk to investors. Now, investors are all LPs, limited partners. So these are, actually I'm lying. It's not just limited partners. It'll be LPs and GPs. Now, what's the difference between LPs and GPs? GPs are what we call general partners. General partners are actually active on that deal. LPs are limited partners. Those are people who come in and provide funding with limited say so on what happens with the deal. They'll go left or right. They don't have as much say, but their money is into the deal and tied into the deal. So at the end of it, they get paid out. Now, of those two, the more important is the LP, period. Why? Because the GP's reputation depends on him or her succeeding, but as well on the words that come from the LPs. So when the LPs go out and tell their friends, hey, I invested $100,000 with this guy. He got me $200,000 when I got all my money back. You got to do a deal. Now that reputation grows. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's the idea behind it. Again, we're going to use the podcast. We're going to use the podcast to help us connect with all of these folks. Additionally, we're going to actually have side conversations with them as well. Because remember, the part that we're after, multifamily, it's going to be easier to do this in a large multifamily setting. But knowing we only get to 625 doors and making 1.5 a month, we're going to have to look at talking to not just multifamilies, but small multifamilies, 2 to 5 units that aren't considered commercial or aren't considered a business at that point, right? They're considered residential. So that's going to help us get to that 1.5 a month. Now, that's a whole different story. We'll talk about that later. I think that's going to be a little bit more difficult to achieve within a 4-year period, but I could be wrong. We could absolutely blow this 625 doors out of the water, and we could end up being, at the 1.5 million a month. So we'll definitely see. But these are how I break down goals, particularly with large goals, taking it from bigger to smaller pieces. And this is on the journey that you're going to go with me on as we're going to break down each one of these. Now, tomorrow, we're actually going to reach out to a few brokers. We're going to reach out to a few brokers. We're going to reach out to some real estate agents. That's the one I missed on here too. Real estate agents as well. Now, the real estate agents is for the analysis part that we talked about for the 7 cities area. And then we're going to get back into the last couple pieces of analytics for the last two cities. I believe it's, I want to say it's Portsmouth and Hampton. So Portsmouth and Hampton, I think, are the last 2 cities we got to do in the Hampton Roads area, and then we'll move on to somewhere else. But before we do that, we're going to start reaching out, like I said, to the brokers, to these brokers here, and these property managers, analysts, investors, and then we're going to talk to some real estate agents as well, all in that area. And then I'll record those, and we'll do it live. I'll call them or get them on the phone, and we'll have that live conversation right here. So I got to go for now. Remember, you're better than you were, but you're not half as good as you're going to be. Go back and watch this if you're kind of confused on the thought process. Even ask questions. I'm more than willing to help you out. I want you to grow just like I'm growing. I'll see you soon.